My Heart Is Yours from Christian Stanville and Passion. It is Radio Rhema, 17 minutes past 10. Well, this year, as you well know, marks the 100th anniversary of the Gallipoli landings on the Gallipoli Peninsula. An amazing time in history for New Zealanders and Australians, and we do remember the some 2,770 odd New Zealanders who died in that conflict, which actually lasted about 8 months in Gallipoli. Going way back past 100 years, though, in terms of their history in New Zealand, is the Bible Society of New Zealand. And joining me from the Bible Society is Stephen Opie. Good morning, Stephen.
Morning.
Yeah, 1846.
That's right, yeah, it's a long time ago.
Amazing, isn't it, to think that the Bible has been shared with New Zealanders for that long in New Zealand. What an incredible history.
It is an incredible history, actually. Our work actually dated before that, unofficially.
Okay.
Samuel Marsden, when he came to New Zealand in 1814 and had the first Christian service at Oihi Bay, he actually founded the New South Wales Auxiliary of the Bible Society. So he, I guess, was the first kind of presence of Bible Society in New Zealand in a way.
Yeah. So has the mandate of the Bible Society changed over those years, or do you essentially do what you've always done?
We essentially have done what we've always done, which is to translate, publish and distribute the scriptures. However, in recent times, research has shown us that perhaps in a country like New Zealand and places in the Western world, Bible distribution or access to a Bible is not any longer the difficulty that it used to be. I mean, you can get Bibles for free on the phone now. What more is a greater challenge for us is getting people to read it, getting people to engage with it, and to say to the public, the wider public space, hey, look, this is a book that is important. It has something to say about life in the 21st century. Don't discard it.
Well, you're absolutely right, because it used to be that every home had a Bible in it. And
Yep.
even if you weren't particularly religious, and in fact, I remember my grandparents saying they're not particularly religious, but there was still a King James Bible in their bookshelf pride of place. It was just what you did. Probably not the case these days in New Zealand.
No, it's not the case, especially with the number of people who are professing to be Christian going below about 50% now. So we've found that the number of people who own a Bible is a lot less. And I think in the 80s it was around 80 to 90% of homes had a Bible. Now it's around 60, I think.
Yeah, amazing. Now, you guys have marked Anzac Day and World War I in particular, which, of course, 101 years ago it started, but we remember it this year because of the Gallipoli landings 100 years ago on the 25th of April, 1915. They started this campaign, and so many New Zealanders and Australians, and not just New Zealanders and Australians, but also the Turks and the Allies lost men. I think at the end of that campaign, 130,000 men had lost their lives. It is certainly a thing worth remembering, and you guys have done something special this year, haven't you?
We have, yes. We've Bible Society New Zealand's been partnering with the New Zealand Defence Force, probably way back since World War I, actually, to distribute testaments and Bibles to Defence Force personnel. In fact, a lot of those soldiers who went to World War I and went to Gallipoli were issued with a small khaki-covered New Testament from the Bible Society in New Zealand. It was actually the New Zealand Auxiliary of the British Bible Society back then.
You hear stories, don't you? And it's sort of become, folklore of guys who, bullets were stopped.
That's right,
by the Bible in their top pocket and things. And actually, that happened quite a lot.
It's surprising. And as we produced this special edition commemorative New Testament for the Defence Force to commemorate World War I, we discovered that there's actually a lot of these stories of bullets that have been stopped by Bibles and prayer books, and there's a few of them. There's some in Wairau Museum, and it's incredible.
I'm holding in my hand this beautiful, and it is beautiful. You've done an amazing job with this. The World War I commemorative edition of the New Testament with Psalms and Proverbs. We'll talk about the contents of it and the inspiration for it very shortly. But I am surprised that you didn't do it in a Kevlar cover, bulletproof cover, because you make it into what it was actually being used for in World War I.
That's right. Yeah, well, I've been told that these days technology is so advanced that nothing would really stop a bullet. So it would rip right through these. So unfortunately.
Probably better that the person reads it and takes into account what the words are saying. Talk me through this. What was the inspiration behind releasing this book?
Well, I guess I sat down with Principal Defence Force Chaplain Lance Lucan probably about a year and a half ago, and we started talking about this special commemoration that's coming up on Saturday. And we looked at a way of marking that, an appropriate way of marking that, and really honouring, I guess, the role the Bible's played in the Defence Force. For many in the two world wars, the Bible was a really important thing. You know, there's a story of an officer who, after a charge at Gallipoli, the next day he was sent out to recover coats, which had been used to cover the wounded, and they had to go out and recover these coats, and he reported back that in almost every single coat they found one of these little New Testaments. Amazing. So, you know, the New Testament, the Bible, the Scriptures was really important to soldiers back in World War One. It still is important to the Defence Force today.
Yeah. I mean, amazing hope if you were away from home, thousands of miles away from your loved ones, to be able to read the words of the New Testament, the words of Jesus, incredible hope that must have offered the soldiers. And, you know, like you say today, incredible hope just in your pocket, isn't it?
Absolutely. And it's almost impossible to imagine what they went through in those trenches. Even what some of our Defence Force go through today, it's very difficult for us to imagine, us civilians, you know, but sitting in a trench, you know, and pulling out a New Testament must have been a moment of great joy and some peace and comfort in that craziness of Gallipoli.
An oasis.
Yeah.
I mean, talk me through what content you've put in here. Obviously, it is the New Testament with the Psalms and the Proverbs, but there's some lovely little extras, isn't there?
There is. One of the best things, I think, is the foreword, which has been written by Lieutenant General Tim Keating, the Chief of Defence Force. And he actually specifically wanted to write the foreword for this edition. So it was great to work with him. And we've also put in here some stories about bullet Bibles, as you mentioned, some of the great stories there. And also there's a story of Chaplain Major William Grant, who was the first chaplain to die in World War One, first New Zealand chaplain. And he's got a great story, and that just kind of honours the role that chaplains had, the important role that they had as well.
Yeah.
And we've got photos which we've pulled out of the archives from the National Library of some New Zealand soldiers during World War One, and it's quite interesting to look at their faces and to see who they might have been. Flanders Fields poem by John McCrae, which is one of my favourites.
Yeah, but also very practical in terms of if you were a soldier and you were in a war situation, wherever you were in the world, there's a guide to where to look in the Bible if you have questions about certain things. There's also just a very simple prayer that you can pray to become a Christian, or steps to becoming a Christian if you wanted to take that relationship a little bit further. There's prayers and things in there. I mean, it is beautifully done. Can people get hold of this? I mean, can they get a copy of it, or is this sort of limited edition?
To get a copy, you'd have to join the Defence Force.
Okay, all right.
Unfortunately. Yeah, so it's a special gift from Bible Society, and our supporters have given us money for this ministry, so we only make it for the Defence Force.
All right. I hope you don't mind, but I have a copy here. Do you mind if we give this away to the listeners?
You can do
just
that.
As a one-off limited
a one-off,
edition.
very special edition. No, that's fine.
All right. So we're going to do that on Facebook today, and actually we're asking for your favourite New Testament Bible verses. You can join the conversation at rhema.co.nz. Click on the Facebook link. Stephen Opie, really nice to talk to you, and thanks for this. A beautiful thing and a really amazing way to mark Anzac Day this year.
Pleasure. Thanks for having me.